We are in Torah Yutet, Torah 19 in Likutey Moharan. And we are in middle of part 3 in this Torah, Od Gimel. And this Torah is called Tfilah leChabakuk ala Shigionot, the prayer to Chavakuk for having made errors. We're going to see throughout the Torah, we're going to see what is this aspect of errors. And Rebbe Nachman begins by explaining to us, bringing to us, to our attention, the first line in sefirot Pnimiyut and the Zohar that says that Ad lahava matkala lahavu mashgichin apin be'apin, that before the world was in a state of order and balance, there was a lack of face-to-face providence, meaning there was a lack of a face-to-face relationship, a face-to-face connection. So there's a certain level of connection, a deep connection, that is metaphorically described in Kabbalah as a face-to-face connection, a face-to-face relationship. And it's metaphorically described as a face-to-face relationship, even though many times some people can be connecting and conversing with each other, speaking to each other face to face, but each one of them is back to back really. And so the face to face is more of a description of the consciousness of the two parts of the relationship, the two individuals in the relationship. And when the consciousness of the heart of each one of them is absolutely completely focused, directly focused on the other, that's what we would describe as a face-to-face relationship. And so this is the highest level of connection that is possible. It's the clear, direct connection that we are seeking with Hashem. And this is the clear, direct connection, which is the highest state that any part of creation could be in, is when that part of creation is in experiencing this direct connection with its source, with the source of its life, with the source of its existence, with the one source of all of existence, with Hashem. And so the Zohar teaches us that before the sefirot, before the world, before the sefirot that make up the world, before it was in a balance and it was organized in a clear order, then they were lacking, at the same time, they were lacking this face-to-face connection. And we explained, what does that mean before they were in a balance? And we explained that before this world was created, before the world of tikkun was created, the orderly world, there was a world of chaos, what's called olam hatohu. And one of the reasons why that world went to chaos, became a state of chaos in that world. And we explained that each one of the 7 kings that ruled, it ruled and then it died. And that was the chaos, that all the kings died. And so there was a tremendous state of destruction in that world. And we said that Hashem created that world before he created this world, so that everything that we are to, our purpose in this world, what we have to rectify and fix, the sparks of holiness that we want to return to their source, in order to create a world of order, of peace, of harmony, of coherence. That is the reason why it is initially in a state of lack, of chaos, is because it is coming after that world of chaos. Because first, what preceded this world was that world of chaos, the world of Tohu. And one of the reasons why that world that preceded this world, that world in the state of chaos, why it came to a state of chaos, is because the sefirot in that world were not orderly. The sefirot in that world were not balanced. As we explained, the sefirot in that world were one upon the other, one on top of the other. And in a system, if everyone in the system wants to be on top of the other, and no one is connecting with the other to see how they may help the other, and so everyone wants to be for themselves and everyone wants to rule over everyone else and over everything else, then such a system crumbles into chaos. That's what happened in the world of Tohu. But when Hashem created the world, this world, the world of tikkun, the world of order and peace and harmony and coherence, So the sefirot were organized in a balanced state, in a way that you have the sefirot on the right column, the sefirot in the left column, and the sefirot in the middle column. And so there's an equal balance where you have sefirot that are more more expansive, more expanded. On the right side, you have sefirot that are more closed. It's a judgment energy on the left side, more constricted. And then you have the perfect balance that combines the two sides and brings kind of like peace, kind of like makes a peace between the two ends of the spectrum in the middle column. And so that balance that you have in the order of the sefirot in the system that is current in this world, and the tikkun, and the orderly world, and the world of harmony, that's that brings us, allows us to experience this direct connection, this direct face-to-face relationship with our source, with Hashem. And so based on this, Rebbe Nachman wants to give us a practical application of this. And he tells us that when we have to learn Torah from the source of Torah, Torah is the life. Source of life is Torah. It's Chaim Hila Machazikim Ba, right? The tree of life it is to those who attach themselves to it. And how do they attach themselves to it? How do you attach yourself to the Torah? Like the Zohar explains, by having your daily Torah learning. Every day a person sets time aside from the things that they want to do during that day in order to focus on increasing and expanding and deepening their Torah knowledge and understanding it in a greater way. And when you do that on a consistent basis, that's called hatmada, that is consistent, you are attached to the Torah. You are eating from the fruits of the Torah, from this tree of life. Your sustenance is from the tree of life. Your soul is consistently being given its food. And so you are alive, because without food you cannot live. Now that you're eating your neshama's food, your soul's food, you are alive and you are receiving life from the source of all life. And so you have this relationship with your creator, with Hashem. And like the Gemara teaches us, the Mishnah says that when a person sits down to learn Torah, the Shekhinah sits next to him. Shekhinah kinegdo. Okay, the Shekhinah meaning Hashem's the presence of Hashem that dwells in this world is revealed and sits next to this person, okay, and teaches him the Torah that he's learning. So this is a relationship that you have with the Shekhinah, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, with your creator, with the source of all life. When you learn Torah, every time you're sitting and learning Torah, you must be aware that you are right now involved in a direct connection, relationship with the source of your life, with your creator. And so Rabbi Nachman explains to us that just as we saw in the Zohar that there is a relationship that is metaphorically compared to face-to-face connection, then so we must recognize what are these different levels of connection and relationship that you have when you're receiving Torah, which is the life energy that you receive from your creator, that you receive from Hashem. So where do we receive this Torah? Where do we receive this life energy? Who is the one who gives us this Torah? Okay, when we are children, when we are born, before we're able to learn any Torah on our own, we were taught how to learn Torah. And so everything that we know, every Torah that we ever learn throughout our life, at a certain point, really, it's all coming to us from the Torah teachers, from the leaders of Torah, from this generation and past generations. Our parents that received it from their teachers, or our teachers that received it from their teachers, and so on and so forth. We have this tradition from generation to generation, all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. And so Moshe Rabbeinu is the teacher of Torah for all generations. He's our teacher. Each one of us, when we learn Torah, we are learning Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. Even if we're learning it from a sefer, from a book on our own, the ability to learn that Torah And whatever understandings that had to precede what we're learning right now in front of us in order to understand what we're learning came from Moshe Rabbeinu. And even what we're learning right now, whoever is teaching it, whoever wrote this book, whoever wrote this sefer, received it from his teacher, or received it from his teacher, all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. So it's always the Torah that we're receiving is always from the tzaddik of the generation, the Torah leader of the generation, the holy soul of Moshe Rabbeinu in each generation. And so when we were learning Torah, we were learning Torah from the tzaddik of the generation. And so when you receive Torah from the tzaddik, Rabbi Nachman says there are different levels of receiving Torah from the tzaddik. There are different metaphorical relationships that you can understand in that receiving of the Torah from the tzaddik. And so the highest level possible, the greatest experience of this connection, of this relationship between the receiver of life and the giver of life is a face-to-face, what's called panim el panim. When you are receiving the Torah directly from the tzaddik as he's giving it, you are there when he is giving over the Torah, and you are facing him and looking at his face and receiving the Torah from the tzaddik directly. And then every level that this is distanced from that, it's a lesser level of receiving the Torah. So sometimes you will receive the Torah from someone that was there when the tzaddik gave the Torah over, and he received it from the tzaddik directly, facing the tzaddik. But you are not. You are receiving it from that person who was there. And then sometimes you receive it from the person who was received it from the person who received it from the tzaddik, and so on and so forth. And then sometimes you're not even receiving it from the face of somebody, because when there's a face, at least when there is some level of face-to-face connection that's happening, so it's still included in that category. But sometimes you're not even receiving it from the face-to-face connection. Sometimes you're receiving it just by learning the sefer. And yes, that's a connection. Yes, that's tremendously wonderful and powerful. And you're receiving the light of the Torah through the book, through the sefer that you're learning, the words of the tzaddik. But it's nowhere it's nowhere on the level. It can't even be compared to the level of connection that you receive when you are receiving the Torah face to face, and when you're receiving the Torah directly from the tzaddik, looking at his face. And what's the tremendous benefits and significance from receiving the Torah facing the tzaddik? Rabbi Nachman explains to us that the tzaddik has purified his face to such a degree that anyone who looks into his face will be able to see that perfection of the tzaddik, will be able to see that clarity of the tzaddik. And that clarity in the face of the tzaddik is almost like a mirror. And so they will see their own reflection, and how in that clear mirror, in that clear perfection of the tzaddik, they see all the places, the blemishes, the spiritual blemishes and deficiencies in their own face. Just like in a mirror, you look in the clear mirror, and sometimes the mirror is not clear, and then you can't see yourself properly, right? And in hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when the mirror was not clear, they could see themselves a little bit, the reflection a little bit, but they wouldn't be able to see nowhere near the way you can see yourself in a clear mirror that is absolutely perfect, right? Then you see your perfect reflection, and you can see even the tiniest blemish, even the tiniest dirt or schmutz, you can see it and you can get rid of it. If the mirror was not so completely clear, you can see somewhat of a reflection, but not such a clear reflection. So the tzaddik is the perfect mirror because he is absolutely clear and pure, and to such a degree that when you look at the tzaddik's face, you see your own reflection and all those even tiniest deficiencies in your spiritual makeup, in your spiritual personality. And then you can rectify that, and you are awakened, you are motivated to rectify that without any rebuke, without any tochacha, without the tzaddik pointing out anything. The tzaddik doesn't have to say any word. The tzaddik is always looking for the good in you. But you yourself will recognize, just by looking in that perfect mirror of the face of the tzaddik, you'll be able to recognize those deficiencies, pay attention to them, and be motivated. Naturally, you're motivated to clean it off. Just like when you look at yourself in the mirror, no one has to tell you, hey, you better clean off that schmutz on your face. Nobody has to tell you that. You naturally are motivated when you see it to clean it off. And so that's what happens on a spiritual level when you are receiving Torah directly from the tzaddik, facing the tzaddik, face to face. And then Rabbi Nachman is going to explain to us in this Torah how each one of us can purify our face, get to that level. What's the process that we want to go through in order to purify our own face, so that when others look into our face will be a mirror to them. And without any rebuke, without any musar, without any tochacha, without pointing at other people's flaws, we don't want that. We want to always look for the good in others. But because we are this pure mirror, other people in the world will be naturally motivated to, they will see in themselves those blemishes and those deficiencies, and they will be naturally motivated to clean that up, to fix that up just by looking at our face. And so each one of us has the potential to be this perfect, clear mirror, because each one of us has a tzaddik within us. Each one of us, like the Mishnah in Avot says, Kol Yisrael yesh lehem chedek l'olam haba. Each one of us has a part in the world to come, as the pasuk says, ve'amech kulam tzadikim le'olam yirshu aretz, and your nation are all saints, and they will inherit the world. They will inherit the world to come. They will inherit the eternal world. Okay? And so each one of us has this aspect of tzaddik. Each one of us has this spark. And because of that, we all have this potential of becoming that perfect mirror. And so Rabbi Nachman goes on to now to explain to us the beginning of this process. In order to understand this process, he has to give us some understanding, some foundational ideas that we will build upon, that will explain to us further later on what this process is. And so he starts explaining to us the secret of the holy language, the secret of lashon hakodesh, and the secret, the significance of the holy language of lashon hakodesh is that it's the language that Hashem, through which Hashem created the world. It's the language of creation. It's the language which is basically the spiritual makeup, the spiritual DNA, the spiritual building blocks of reality is this language. And when you say shamayim, which is the word for the heavens, for the sky, those letters are the building blocks, the soul, so to speak, of the heavens. That in every moment, what gives the reality of the skies its existence are these letters. These that are contained within these letters is the light of Hashem. And these letters are kind of like the building blocks, the combination, the form, okay, that allows the light of Hashem to be manifested in that sky at that given moment. And when you say a table is called shulchan in the holy language, in lashon hakodesh, these are the letters contained within the table, that within those letters is contained the light of Hashem, and that gives the existence in each moment to that table, these building blocks, these spiritual building blocks. And so everything in creation, everything in existence has within it the letters of the Torah, the letters of this holy language, lashon hakodesh. And so this is where we're up to, where Rabbi Nachman is explaining to us the significance of this language. And Rabbi Nachman explains to us that this is the aspect, this language, this holy language of lashon hakodesh is the aspect of Chavah. It's the aspect of the woman. So the building blocks of reality is the aspect of the woman. She is the one. The aspect of the woman is the aspect that gives form to existence. And so the light is formed into a specific part of creation. And what gives form to the light is the female aspect. The woman in creation is the one who takes the light and forms it into letters, okay, and builds from it a child or a part of creation, okay. And so that's the female aspect. And we see this, that the idea that this concept that the holy language, lashon hakodesh, is the language of creation, is learnt from the word in this language that is the word for a woman, ishah. The Gemara teaches us, ishah ki mi'ish lukachazot. Right? That's lashon nofel al lashon. Mikan shenivra olam b'lashon hakodesh, as the Gemara says. And so the Gemara learns from the word for a woman, ishah, that because in the ancient languages, at the beginning of time, by the generation of the Babylonians, the original Babylonians, right? The Tower of Babel, when Hashem separated those evil people, those people, that generation, they wanted to disconnect this world from its purpose in terrible ways. And we spoke about that in the previous year. And Hashem disconnected them from their relationship and their understanding of this holy language, because this holy language has the power of creation. And those people lost the ability. They proved that they were not worthy of such a power. With such a power comes a tremendous responsibility, and they were not worthy of that power, and so Hashem disconnected them from that power. Okay, He took that power away from them, and that's where the 70 languages were born. And in those 70 languages, none of those 70 languages had any relationship between the word for a woman and the word for a man, except for the holy language. The holy language is the language that you can see. The word for a woman is ishah, and the word and the way that what that means in the linguistics of this language is that this ishah was created from man, me'ish lukachazot. Okay, and she was created from man, and as we know that Hashem created man, Adam and Chavah, there were two sides, and then Hashem separated one side and created from that the woman. And so from here we see that this is the language of creation, and there's a reason why Chachamim, why the Gemara, the Talmud teaches us that this is the proof how we see that this is the language of creation. Okay, there are many other ways of proving it, but this is the proof that they point out, and there's a tremendous secret hidden in that. The secret is, we're going to see, Rabbi Nachman explains to us that the aspect of woman is the aspect of the lashon hakodesh, of the holy language. So the female aspect that is taken from man, right? And she is the aspect that now takes that light and forms it and creates from it a child. That is the aspect of lashon hakodesh. That is the holy language. And so that's the reason why our Chachamim, they use this as the proof. Okay, it's not just a proof, it's kind of like there's a hidden meaning, a significance in this. And so this is what we're up to. This aspect is the aspect of Chavah, the first woman. This aspect of the speech, of the holy speech. And that's why we see the pasuk in Tehillim, it says, night to night declares night declares tonight. Every night declares to the other night, expresses, speaks to the other night. So the word in this pasuk that means to speak to express, to declare is yechaveh, which is kind of like taking the word chava and turning it into a verb. Yechaveh, will chava, will speak, declare to the other. So we see that the meaning of the word Chavah, which is the name of the first woman, is to speak. That's the concept of speaking. And then he brings us another proof that this aspect of speech, of the holy speech, is the aspect of woman. As it says, the pasuk in Bereshit, Lezot yikare isha. The pasuk says, to this one shall be called a woman. Okay, so Rebbe Nachman says that the word zot, This one is a synonym for the female aspect. And we know Kabbalistically, the Malchut, which is the female aspect, the female sefirot, is called Zot in the Zohar, many places. Whenever in the Torah it says the word Zot, it's referring to the Malchut, the Shechina, okay, the presence of Hashem that dwells in this world, okay? And so the Zot, to the Malchut, to the female aspect, Yikare Isha, that shall be called a woman, okay? And so Zot is the aspect of speech, and it's the aspect of the woman. As we see the other pasuk in Bereshit that says, "Vezot asher diber lahem," and this is Zot is what their father spoke to them. So we see that Zot is the aspect of speaking. This is what he spoke to them, and so that this is the Zot is the aspect of speaking. And so the Gemara that we mentioned earlier, that the Gemara says a play on words, and the word in Hebrew, the expression in the Gemara for a play of words is lashon nofel lashon. Okay, a word falls upon a word. It's kind of like a pun, you know. That's what it means, a play on words. A word falls upon a word. It sounds the same, and so it's a play on words. And word falls upon a word. But Rabbi Nachman explains was the deeper meaning in this expression. What does it mean, lashon, which means literally the language that falls upon the language or falls because of the language? And so Rabbi Nachman explains that through this language, the holy language, all the other 70 languages fall. What does it mean they all fall? And so Rabbi Nachman explains to us that each one of the 70 languages are from the side of darkness, except for the language of light, the language of creation. And so you have the language of creation at the center, and surrounding it are 70 wolves, as the Zohar compares them to, the 70 languages that surround the holy language, and they try to steal its light. Okay, but all their existence is only an existence of concealment. Okay, as we know that all darkness and all of klipot only exist because of they don't have an existence unto themselves. They don't have an essence unto themselves. All they are is the concealment of light, and that's what their power is, and that's what their existence is. Their essence is the concealment of the light. They don't have an existence unto themselves. And so each one of the 70 languages is a different type of concealment of the light. It's a different type of evil. It's a different type of darkness, because it's a different type of concealment of the light. And at the center, you have the light. That's the holy language, the language lashon hakodesh, the language of creation. And so Rebbe Nachman says that the power of this language of light, the language of creation, is that through that language, when that language is expressed, when that language radiates its light, so all of the darkness, all of the concealment falls away. It's logical. It makes sense, right? When you shine the flashlight into the darkness just ceases to exist. And so this holy language, lashon hakodesh, is that light that when it radiates its light, when it's radiated, expressed, so all of the 70 languages, they dissolve, they cease to exist. And so that's what it means, lashon nofel al lashon. A language falls in the place of a language. Okay, what does that mean? That means all the 70 languages, they fall when the language is revealed, when the holy language is revealed, they just fall away. And so then Rabbi Nachman is going to explain to us, and we'll speak about this more in the next class, in the next year, how each one of these 70 languages has a specific evil, a specific darkness, a specific concealment of the light. But there is a certain concealment of the light that includes a certain darkness, a certain evil, a certain impurity that includes all evils of all the 70 languages. It includes all the darkness of all the 70 languages. It includes the concealment, the power of concealment of all of the 70 languages as one. And what is that? That's the burning inferno, okay, of the lust for inappropriate sexual relationships. Okay, medurat ta'ava shel niuf. Okay, that burning inferno of lust for immoral sexual relationships, activities. That is the darkness and the concealment, the power of concealment, the power of darkness that includes within it all of the specific evils of each one of the 70 languages as one. And we're going to speak about the Zohar, Bezrat Hashem, in the next class. We'll think about the Zohar that teaches us about this burning inferno, this fire of all the 70 stars. There are 70 stars that surround a certain star, and they all become one, and they all try to block the light of Hashem from being drawn into this world. Okay, they try to steal it away and to use it for the fulfillment of their own desires, their own lusts, their own ego wants. Okay, and that's what blocks the shefa, the abundance, the light of the Yesod from getting to the Malchut. And we'll speak about that in the next class, Bezrat Hashem.